The Chicago wind was particularly biting that late Saturday night when a bright yellow taxi dropped me off in front of my father's massive estate in the Gold Coast. The mansion was completely ablaze with warm lights, and the pleasant hum of laughter and expensive silverware drifted from within. This was our monthly family dinner, a tradition that Dr. Richard had maintained for over 20 years to keep us all close. As I stepped out of the cab, smoothing my simple dress, I looked at the long line of luxury SUVs and German sedans parked in the driveway. They were shining symbols of the prosperity and success my family had always known. I knew that arriving in a common taxi wouldn't go unnoticed by my relatives. When I entered the grand dining room, my father's sharp eyes immediately swept over me, analyzing my tired face and worn bag. My husband, Patrick, was already seated at the large mahogany table, laughing loudly at a joke and cutting into a piece of prime rib. He completely ignored my arrival and didn't even bother to stand up to greet me. I walked over and kissed my father's hand, a gesture of respect he had taught all of us since childhood. He held my hand for a second longer, his eyes searching mine, trying to understand what was wrong. "Why did you arrive in a taxi tonight, Jane?" my father asked quietly, but the entire table went silent to hear the answer. "What happened to that new luxury SUV I gave you for your last birthday? It is only 6 months old." I opened my mouth to protect Patrick, as I always did in these situations. I was used to swallowing my own discomfort just to keep the peace between us, but before I could speak, Patrick finally piped up. Patrick spoke with a chilling nonchalance that shocked me, while slowly sipping his expensive red wine. "Oh, that car? I decided to give it to my mother, Martha," he said, sounding like he was just talking about the weather. "She needed it much more than Jane did. She has her church group meetings in the distant suburbs, and was quite embarrassed to show up in her old clunker. It didn't look good for our family image." He then had the absolute audacity to suggest that since I worked as an architect in the city, I could just use Uber or the train. He called it more practical for my daily routine. I felt my face burn with intense shame, not because of the taxi, but because of the cold exposure of my husband's utter lack of consideration for me. My father didn't yell or slam the table. It just looked at Patrick with a very strange expression. It was an expression I had never seen on his face before, as if he were looking at something repulsive that needed to be discarded immediately. Then, a very slight smile touched his lips, but it wasn't a happy one. It was the smile of a powerful man who had just made a definitive decision. Discreetly, under the table, his fingers moved rapidly across his phone screen. He was sending several messages. The gears of fate were turning. While we were finishing our main course many miles away in an upscale suburban social club, Martha was having her moment of glory. The silver SUV was parked prominently at the main entrance, shining under the bright lights. Martha was practically posing next to it as her friends from the prayer group circled like fascinated vultures. "Is it brand new, Martha?" one asked with feigned admiration and very real envy. "Absolutely brand new," Martha beamed with pride. "My son Patrick bought it for me. He said I deserved much better than that old car." In Martha's narrative, her wonderful son was a high-flying executive who could buy luxury vehicles on a whim. The reality was that Patrick only worked for my father as an operations manager. It was a position he only held because of our marriage and my father's generosity toward him. His salary was decent, but he spent every single cent maintaining a false image of wealth. He bought designer clothes and expensive gifts for his mother, often charging them directly to my personal credit cards. Martha loved being envied by everyone she knew. The silver car was her ultimate trophy. "I have to head inside now, girls," Martha announced, grabbing her designer bag. She climbed into the car and turned the key. For a brief second, her world was perfect and full of status. Then, the engine suddenly died with a soft click. She tried to start it again, but the entire dashboard lit up in a bright, warning red. A cold, mechanical voice began to echo through the car speakers. "Security system activated. Unauthorized use detected. Engine has been remotely disabled by order of the registered owner. Martha froze in her seat, her mouth agape. Suddenly, the car horn began to blare, a loud, rhythmic, and piercing alarm that echoed through the entire parking lot. The lights flashed frantically as if the car were being stolen in broad daylight. People began to pour out of the social club to see what the commotion was about. Martha was trapped inside the vehicle, the doors locked automatically by the security system. She was hitting the steering wheel and screaming for help. No one could hear her through the expensive soundproof glass, which only added to her panic. After 3 minutes that felt like an eternity, the doors finally clicked open. Martha stumbled out, her hair completely disheveled and her makeup ruined by angry tears. That's when the tow truck arrived, a large professional vehicle from the security firm my father contracted for his clinics. "We have an order for recovery," the driver said. Despite her loud protests that her son gave her the car, he was towed away in front of all her judgmental friends. They were already filming her humiliation on their phones to share with everyone else. Her carefully constructed image of a successful mother collapsed in mere minutes. Back at the mansion, Patrick was leaning back in his chair, bragging about a business deal he was supposedly closing with a new client. Then his phone rang with a loud and very irritating ringtone. He answered it on speakerphone, grinning at the people at the table. "Hey, Mom, are you enjoying the new ride tonight?" What came back wasn't words of gratitude. It was a hysterical, high-pitched scream. "Patrick! They took the car! They humiliated me in front of everyone. They said I was using something that wasn't mine." The entire dining room went deathly silent. Martha's loud sobs filled the air of the room. I saw the color drain from Patrick's face as he realized what was happening. His first instinct, true to his nature, was to blame me for his problems. He hung up the phone and pointed a shaking finger at my face across the table. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You're so selfish you couldn't even share a car with my mother." He stood up so fast he knocked his chair over. The sound of the chair hitting the floor echoed like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Sit down." My father's voice cut through the air like a sharp blade. It wasn't a loud shout. It was a low, firm command that demanded obedience. Patrick froze in place. Slowly, he turned to face my father, who was now standing at the head of the table, looking dangerously calm. "Sit down right now or get out of my house. The choice is yours." Patrick looked around the room for any allies, but he found only cold stares of disapproval from my relatives. He finally sat. My father walked slowly around the table and placed a hand on Patrick's shoulder, squeezing with a force that wasn't at all paternal. "The car you gave your mother was never yours to give," he said quietly. "You took something that didn't belong to you and handed it to someone else. That is misappropriation. But since we are technically family, I've decided to resolve this matter internally." My father continued with a cold smile. "The car has been recovered and is back in my possession. Now, I need you to return some things to me as well." Patrick's voice was a weak whisper when he asked, "What things?" "The keys to the company car you're driving right now. Because as of this moment, you no longer work for any of my clinics." The table erupted in silent shock at the sudden firing. My father pulled a $10 bill from his leather wallet and tucked it into Patrick's front shirt pocket. "For the bus," he said with dripping irony. "Since you told my daughter she should learn to live with less, now it's finally your turn to experience that." The total humiliation on Patrick's face was almost palpable to everyone watching. He was red with silent fury. He looked at me then, and there was so much hatred in his eyes that I almost stepped back. But there was also a desperate plea for help. He wanted me to intervene and beg my father to reconsider, to save his skin as I always had in the past. But this time, I said absolutely nothing. I simply diverted my gaze and took a slow sip of my wine, my hands feeling surprisingly firm. I was finally done with his constant ego. Patrick left the house in a daze, escorted out by my father's personal security guard. For the first time in 3 long years, I felt something deep inside me relax. I could finally breathe again. My father told me I was staying at the mansion that night, and that we would get my things from the apartment the very next day. It wasn't a question, it was a simple fact. I slept through the night for the first time in many years. While I slept in peace, Patrick was living a true nightmare. He took a cab to our shared apartment, hoping to use my credit cards to order food and maintain his image for a few more days. But when he tried to enter the building, the doorman stopped him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Patrick, but I have strict orders not to let you in. The lease is in Jane's name, and she has informed us you no longer reside here." My father had planned this. Defeated and with only a few dollars left in his pocket, Patrick went to his mother's small house in the suburbs. Martha was unrecognizable. Her face was swollen from crying, and her hair was a complete mess. Instead of comforting her son, she started screaming at him. "Where is the car? You humiliated me. All my friends are laughing at me now." They argued loudly in the doorway until the neighbors started looking out. Inside the house, the reality of their life was very bleak. The furniture was old and broken. Martha had spent all the money Patrick gave her on expensive clothes to look rich, never on improving her actual living conditions. Patrick sat on a worn sofa, realizing he had no job, no home, no car, and no money of his own. Every credit card he tried to use was declined. They ate a few eggs in silence as the weight hit them. A few days later, my father called me into his private office. He apologized sincerely for not protecting me from Patrick's behavior much sooner. He handed me a folder containing divorce papers. "My lawyers have already audited all the marriage finances," he said with that same cold smile. "Every cent he spent on his mother and himself using your cards is documented. We have the proof to use against him if he fights. If he tries to fight this divorce, we will countersue him for misappropriation of funds," my father explained. "In the end, he will owe you a lot of money, not the other way around." I signed the papers immediately, feeling a huge weight lift off my shoulders. My life began to transform. I returned to my original career in architecture, which I had sadly abandoned when I married Patrick to support his ego. I found a job at a prestigious architecture firm in Chicago and quickly stood out because of my dedication. I had real talent, and finally I had the freedom to use it. It was there that I met Leo, a senior partner and an award-winning architect. Leo was everything that Patrick wasn't: respectful, attentive, and genuinely interested in my opinions. He valued my hard work and constantly encouraged me to grow. When Leo eventually invited me to dinner, I hesitated because of my emotional scars, but I finally said yes. We talked for hours about architecture, dreams, and our futures. "I truly admire your strength, Jane," he told me, holding my hand gently. "You went through something very hard and came out of it much stronger than before." Meanwhile, Patrick's life was becoming a constant downward spiral. Patrick couldn't get a good job because my father's connections in the Chicago business world were vast. Everyone knew he was untrustworthy and had been fired for cause. He tried manual labor but found it far too humiliating for his ego. Martha became a pariah in her social circle. No one invited her to any events anymore. She eventually had to take menial cleaning jobs just to pay the basic utility bills. One day, by complete chance, Patrick saw me in the city. I was leaving a luxury restaurant with Leo, and we were both laughing. I looked healthy, glowing, and happy. Leo had his arm around me protectively as we walked toward our new Chevy car he had insisted be registered in my name from the start. Patrick was across the street, standing at a bus stop in a cheap uniform from a retail store. Our eyes met. I felt only indifference when I looked at him. He was like a stranger from a past life that no longer mattered to me. 5 years after that fateful family dinner, my life was completely unrecognizable. Leo and I lived in a beautiful home we had designed together. We had a young daughter who had his kind eyes and my smile. My career had really taken off. I had my own architecture studio now. My father was proud. My father, who is now happily retired, spent most of his days playing with his granddaughter. "You deserve all of this, Jane," he told me one afternoon. "Every single moment of it." I heard through mutual acquaintances that Patrick still worked at that same retail store. He never managed to recover from his fall from grace. Martha's health had also deteriorated from the hard physical labor and constant stress. They continued to live together in that small, crowded house, trapped in a toxic cycle of mutual blame and deep resentment. Patrick had tried to contact my father several times for money or a second chance at a job, but he was firmly rejected every time. My father never forgot his lack of respect. One afternoon, while waiting for a client, I saw a thin, hunched man cleaning store windows across the street. It took me a moment to realize it was Patrick. He had lost everything because he chose his own pride over love and false appearance over real substance. I didn't feel any pity or cruel satisfaction. I just felt a distant sadness at the natural consequences of his poor choices. He had a dedicated wife and a powerful family supporting him, and he threw it all away just for his own fragile ego. My client finally arrived, a young businesswoman who wanted to build a large support center for vulnerable women in the city. "I went through a difficult time myself," I told her during our meeting. "I was once married to a man who diminished my value and exploited my family's resources. It took me a long time to find the courage to leave. Now, I know I deserve respect, and I don't accept less." We closed the business deal that afternoon. It was one of my most meaningful projects to date. That night, after putting my daughter to bed, I sat on the terrace with Leo, looking at the beautiful Chicago skyline. "What are you thinking about right now?" he asked softly. "How one moment of courage can redirect your entire life," I replied. I thought about the moment my father finally acted. I also thought about the moment I finally chose my own dignity over maintaining a false image for a man who didn't love me. Leo pulled me closer to him, grateful that I had made that difficult choice years ago. Patrick lost everything because he sowed seeds of bitterness and regret. I found peace and real love because I chose to rebuild my life on a solid foundation of truth and self-respect. I also thought about the moment I finally chose my own dignity over maintaining a false image for a man who didn't love me. Leo pulled me closer to him, grateful that I had made that difficult choice years ago. Patrick lost everything because he sowed seeds of bitterness and regret. I found peace and real love because I chose to rebuild my life on a solid foundation of truth and self-respect. I often think about the other women who might be in the same position I was. I want them to know that it is never too late to start over. You don't have to stay with someone who treats you like an accessory or a resource to be exploited. Your value is not determined by how much you can give to others at your own expense. Real love is about partnership and mutual growth, not control and selfishness. My architecture studio, Foundation Designs, has become a symbol of this new life. We focus on projects that empower the community and provide safe spaces for those in need. Every building I design is a testament to the fact that you can create something beautiful and strong from the ruins of the past. My team knows my story, and they share my passion for integrity and excellence in everything we do. Leo has been my greatest supporter in this journey. He never tried to overshadow me or take credit for my successes. He celebrates every milestone with me, and he challenges me to be even better. We have built a life together that is based on honesty and transparency. There are no secrets or hidden agendas in our home. We teach our daughter the same values, so she grows up strong and independent. My father often visits the studio and looks at my designs with a twinkle in his eye. He's happy to see me thriving and doing what I love. He knows that his intervention that night was the catalyst for all of this. but he also knows that I was the one who did the hard work of rebuilding. He is proud of the woman I have become, and I am grateful for his wisdom and his unwavering support. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed with Patrick. I probably would still be making excuses for him, still feeling small and invisible. I would have missed out on the joy of real partnership and the fulfillment of a successful career. I would have never known the peace that comes from being truly seen and valued for who I am. That thought makes me hold Leo a little tighter. Patrick and Martha are a cautionary tale for me now. They represent the danger of living for appearances and putting ego above everything else. They lost the most precious things in life: love, family, and respect, all for the sake of a false image. Their story is a reminder to always stay grounded in reality and to value substance over style. I hope they eventually find some peace, but I am moved on. The Chicago skyline is ever-changing, just like life itself. New buildings rise, old ones are demolished, and the city continues to evolve. I am glad to be a part of that evolution, both professionally and personally. I am an architect of my own destiny, and I am building a future that is bright and full of hope. I am no longer defined by my past mistakes, but by the choices I make every day. Our daughter, little Mia, loves to draw buildings already. She has a vivid imagination and a fearless spirit. I tell her she can be anything she wants to be, as long as she stays true to herself. I want her to grow up in a world where women are respected and valued for their contributions, not just for their appearance. I am doing my part to build that world for her, one project at a time. The social club where Martha was humiliated is still there, but she is no longer a member. I heard they have a new group of queens now, but I have no interest in that world. I prefer the company of real friends who value me for my character, not for the car I drive. My social circle is smaller now, but it is much more meaningful. I have found my tribe, and they are a source of great strength. Every Sunday, we still have family dinner, but now it is a much more joyful occasion. There is no tension or hidden drama, just good food and good conversation. We celebrate each other's successes and support each other through the challenges. It is the kind of family life I always dreamed of, and I am so grateful to finally have it. My father still sits at the head of the table, smiling. I recently gave my father a new car for his birthday. It was a small gesture of gratitude for everything he has done for me. He was touched by the gesture, but he reminded me that the best gift I ever gave him was my own happiness. He is happy to see me standing on my own 2 feet, living a life that is full and meaningful. He knows that I am finally free, and that is all he ever wanted. Looking back at that night in the taxi, I realize it was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It was a painful ending, but it was a necessary one. Without that moment of crisis, I might never have found the strength to walk away. It was the spark that ignited the fire of my transformation. I am no longer that woman who arrived in a cab, feeling small and ashamed. I am Jane. I am an architect, a mother, a wife, and a daughter. I am a survivor, but more than that, I am a thriver. I have built a life that is beautiful and strong, and I am proud of it. I know that there will be more challenges ahead, but I am ready for them. I have the foundation I need to weather any storm, and I have the love and support of a wonderful family to guide me through the dark. The retail store where Patrick works is in a part of the city I rarely visit. I have no desire to see him or to remind him of what he lost. He has his own path to walk, and I have mine. I wish him no ill will, but I also have no place for him in my life. He is a part of my history, but he is not a part of my future. I have moved on to bigger and better things, and I am not looking back. Martha's cleaning business is struggling, I hear. It's a hard way to make a living, especially at her age. I sometimes feel a twinge of sadness for her, but I also remember how she treated me and how she enabled Patrick's behavior. She made her choices, just as he did, and now she has to live with them. I hope she finds some comfort in her faith, but I am no longer responsible for her. Life is full of unexpected turns, and you never know what is around the corner. I am grateful for the journey I have been on, even the painful parts. It has made me who I am today, and it has given me a perspective on life that I wouldn't otherwise have. I know what it means to be broken, and I know what it means to be whole. I know the value of truth and the power of love. I am blessed. The support center for women is almost finished. It is a beautiful building, full of light and hope. I am proud to have designed it, and I am even more proud of the work that will be done there. It will be a place of healing and empowerment for women who have been through similar struggles to mine. It is my way of giving back and making a difference in the world. I'm excited to see it open. Mia's drawing of a house is on my desk. It has big windows and a garden full of flowers. She says it's a happy house. That's exactly what I want for her. A happy house and a happy life. I'm doing everything I can to make that a reality. I am building a legacy of strength and resilience for her, so she always knows her own worth and never settles for anything less than she deserves. The Chicago wind is still biting tonight, but I am warm and safe in my home. I am surrounded by love and respect, and I am finally at peace. I look at the stars and feel a deep sense of gratitude for everything I have. I am a lucky woman, and I'm going to make the most of every single day. My story is still being written, and I'm excited to see what the next chapter holds. Life is good. Final thought for tonight. Never underestimate the power of a single moment of courage. It can change your life in ways you never imagined. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and to demand the respect you deserve. Your value is not negotiable, and you don't have to settle for a life that makes you feel small. You are the architect of your own destiny, so build something beautiful. Trust in yourself and in the people who truly love and support you. You have the strength to overcome any obstacle and to create a life that is full and meaningful. Don't let the past define you, but let it be a foundation for a brighter future. You are worth it, and you deserve every moment of happiness. Keep building, keep growing, and never, ever give up on your dreams. I am Jane, and I am finally truly home. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you to find your own courage and to build a life that you love. Remember, you are not alone, and there is always hope for a new beginning. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and keep moving forward. The best is yet to come. Goodbye for now, and may your own journey be full of light and love.